What do most people want when it comes to achieving native-like fluency? What is it that people think they want when they learn English? Let's talk about this today. I'm Natalia. Welcome to my channel where I share practical tips and the system of exercises to achieve native-like fluency. I'm not a native speaker myself, and I'm showing you everything I've been doing for years, and you're very welcome to join me in my practice and do the same exercises. Let's get started. People are not very good at giving honest answers. Most people are not very good at answering the question, what is it that you want relative to your English skills? What is it that you want to achieve? A lot of people will say, I want to be fluent. But it's very difficult to understand or paint fluent if you've never been there. You can't set this goal for yourself because you have never experienced it before. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it feels like. You don't know what parameters and criteria you need to be on the lookout for. How will you know that you have arrived? Most people have no idea. This is why all they know is what they heard from other people. They have seen other people who speak fluently and beautifully and confidently, and they just want to be like them. Which brings us to the next point. When people say, I want to be fluent, or I need native-like fluency, they're not talking about speaking English perfectly with themselves. They usually mean that other people are going to be involved. Most people want to be able to build relationships in English when they say they need native-like fluency. They need to build relationships with other people. And the second thing that they want is they want to be spontaneous. What does it mean? All those examples of other people that speak beautiful, clear, and fluent English that they have seen were not examples of prepared speech. They have seen those situations where people magically and effortlessly and quickly respond in beautiful English, and they want to be able to do the same. And they want to be seen the same way. They want others to see that they can react timely, that they speak correctly, that they understand the intentions, that they master their intonations, and that they can hold the conversation. So it all boils down to these two things. People want to build relationships, or they want to improve their existing relationships in English. And people want to be spontaneous, meaning they want to sound natural in English. They want it to feel easy and effortless. That's what people want when they say that they want to achieve mastery or that they need native-like fluency. Some people say that they need a higher level, higher than advanced, higher than proficient. But most people don't really care about levels. All they care about is the quality of their relationships at work, the quality of their relationships with their partners, especially if their significant other is a native speaker, and the quality of their relationships with their children. I personally work with a lot of immigrants, a lot of people who moved to an English-speaking country and whose children speak English from birth. And very often their children speak English better than them. So let's break down these two. What does it mean? And what do you need to do if you want to master relationships in the English language? Relationships means people. Why is it so difficult? Because it's unpredictable. People's behavior is not always predictable. You don't communicate with a robot. It's a human being. To understand other human beings, you need to understand yourself. Do you really understand yourself in your first language? It's hard work, a lot of work. And doing this work in a foreign language is even harder. But you need to do this work if what you're after is native-like fluency. What does it mean to be spontaneous? To me, it means to be able to do what I'm doing right now. I do not have a script in front of me. I'm not reading every word of what I need to say off the screen. I don't have a scenario. I know what I want to say, and I know that I can deliver it. And I don't need to be consciously thinking about how I must deliver it, about my grammar, about my words, about my intonations. I can hear myself. I am aware of how I sound. If I make a mistake, I'm going to hear it. But I haven't prepared every single word of this episode, because what I practice is being spontaneous, sincere, natural, and genuine in the English language. So, coming back to relationships, in order to understand other people and what they mean, of course, you need to hear what they say. You need to have good listening skills. You need to understand what you heard, or you need to check your understanding. Have you really understood what you heard? In order to do so, you need to repeat back what you think you're hearing. I have already told you the skills that you need to develop. Your listening skills, the ability to hear, the ability to check your understanding, the ability to understand and make sense of the information that you're receiving when another person is speaking. You need to be able to read the intonations. You need to be able to understand their pronunciation. And to do so, you need to improve your pronunciation in the first place. Because when your pronunciation skills improve, your listening skills automatically improve, and vice versa. If you start deliberately working on improving your listening skills, your pronunciation will improve automatically. There's no other way around it. It's impossible for your pronunciation skills not to improve if you invest in your listening skills. So relationships is a big thing, and we all want to master relationships in our first language. Are there any exercises that you can do to improve your relationships or to practice better relationships with people in the English language? Yes, they exist, but they do not exist in the textbook that you're probably working with. They do not exist in the YouTube videos that you watch to learn something about English grammar. They do not exist in workbooks for beginners, intermediate, upper intermediate level students. They're not there. When I say that I've been developing the methodology of achieving native-like fluency, I've been developing these kinds of exercises because what I need and what my clients need is not a certificate. There is no certificate in the world that can prove that you're good at relationships. Nobody really cares. There's no certificate in the world that will prove that you're good at selling. Because relationships, if you're good at relationships, you can sell in English. Maybe that's what you need. If you're good at building relationships, you can pass a job interview. And you can go to multiple job interviews and you're not going to be of course you're going to be stressed, but you're not going to freak out every time you need to talk about yourself in English to a new person. If you are good at relationships in the English language, it's going to be easy for you to present your ideas to the board of directors, to your colleagues, or to your clients. It's going to be easier for you to listen to your clients who are native speakers of English. It's going to be easier for you to hire an international team, especially if you're a startup founder and you're hiring teams, big teams. And if you're raising money too. This is why people need relationships, because they need to solve real life problems, not because they need to know more words or not because they need a certificate, but because what they do and how they speak in English influences their quality of life, influences their career. They need relationships. This is the next level after C2. C2 is the final level in the system that we all know, and the next level is relationships. And this level is infinite. You can develop relationships all your life. But if you ask yourself, are there any exercises that can help me get there? Yes, there are these exercises. I develop these exercises. I do these exercises every single day. They are called creative exercises. If you are curious, go to the community of practice, click on creative exercises and try them out. You can start your free trial and look around, try those exercises. Make sure you get feedback. Make sure you request feedback, because only with feedback you will understand what you can achieve with these exercises. The second thing that people want is to be spontaneous, because in their head, being fluent means being spontaneous and effortless and free. But in reality, it means being able to handle risk, being able to take the risk. Because what is spontaneity? It's uncertainty. What these people want is to be able to remain calm, focused, and present in adversarial situations, in situations where they need to perform under pressure, in situations where there are a lot of unknown variables, in situations where they have no idea how the other person is going to behave, and where the stakes are high, where the risks are high. Imagine you're giving a public talk in English. If you have prepared your talk, and I'm sure you have, you know what you're doing. And trust me, it's very easy to prepare a presentation in English, especially if you can afford hiring a coach. All you need to do is you need to write a text of your presentation, have your coach look at it, edit your text, have somebody create the slides, and then you practice your presentation, you rehearse it over and over again, you receive a lot of feedback from your coach, you rehearse it until it's done, until you're ready, then you go and you present. And when you speak on the stage, everybody in the audience expects you to be the only one talking, so you feel good. Of course, you're going to be anxious and nervous, but that's not the hardest part, especially for someone whose job it is to present ideas, to convince people, and to be talking to large groups of people. I work with a lot of people like this who are masterful, brilliant presenters in their first language, but as soon as they have to present in English, they freeze. They forget everything they know. They feel unconfident, not competent. They feel like a fraud. And like this reaction, this like them being frozen, is very common actually. But it's manageable. It's not what people dread. People do not dread delivering their presentations in the English language, especially when they're well prepared. With practice, it all gets easier and easier. What people dread is the Q&A session at the end. What if they ask me something I don't know? What if I don't know what to reply? What if I ruin my credibility by giving the wrong answer? What if I feel frozen again? What if I feel stuck? What if my boss is going to be there and he's going to be listening to me give the stupid answer? Or what if my boss is going to be there and they hear me say, I don't know? This is a high-stakes situation. Or what if somebody asks their question with this terrible accent that I can't understand? What if I look stupid? What if I give a long-winded answer? A lot of what-ifs. And you can get stuck in this cycle of negative thoughts, negative what-ifs, and you can lose your presence completely. Instead of focusing on the situation and being present and being aware, you get stuck in your own thoughts. This is what people dread. This is what people fear. This is the spontaneous situation that they want to master. They want to be ready for the unknown. And we know that it's impossible to predict every next situation in life. We can't know what another person is going to say the next minute. It's impossible. However, many people behave as if they know, or as if it's possible to pay someone to get this knowledge. It's not possible. You can't prepare your answers for every next conversation in life. But what you can prepare is you can prepare yourself. You can't control other people. You can't manage other people's reactions. But what you can manage is yourself. So for me, the only way to be truly spontaneous and to stay calm and present in situations of extreme uncertainty, where you have to perform under pressure, where a lot is at stake. The only way to practice this, the only way to practice taking such risks, is to learn to manage yourself. This whole idea might sound alien and irrelevant to someone who is a beginner, or somebody who just wants to master the tenses of English, or the prepositions, or the conditional sentences. They're busy mastering this, and that's fine. But if we talk about somebody who is advanced, proficient, but needs more, somebody who needs relationships, and relationships are always spontaneous, and relationships always involve other people. And why is being spontaneous so scary? Because you're not alone in this situation, because you can't control what other people will do. You can't control the external factors. And spontaneous situations are so scary because there is always a lot of unknown variables, a lot of other people, a lot of other events, and we can't control them. But people act as if they can, or as if they can do something to be able to control those situations. They want to learn give me the phrases that I can use at a job interview. Tell me what to say if I am in this situation. Tell me exactly what to say word by word. I have never seen a person in my life who was sitting at the negotiations table and who said, in a situation where he or she felt stuck, who said, you know what, I have a list of phrases. Just hold on a second. I have a list of useful phrases here. Like, what can I say? Oh, yeah, this one. I think I'm going to go with this one. I've never seen a person like this. Because in real life situations, it's a lot faster. You have no time to remember, to consciously remember those phrases or to make decisions. Which phrase out of those 365 phrases that my coach gave me last week can I use? First of all, you're never going to memorize them. It's impossible to remember them. And in situations when you have to perform under stress and under pressure, they're going to be useless. And instead, what I recommend is that you learn the self-regulation techniques and the self-regulation practices so that in situations like this, you know what to do to stay present. You know what to do to perform at your best, even if the situation is not the most favorable for you. And if you can recognize yourself in these scenarios, for example, you can't speak up in a team meeting because you feel like you've forgot every English word that you've known. You know that you're competent. You know that your English is advanced. You took the test last week. But in this specific situation, you freeze. You can't say a word. It's not because your English skills are bad. It's because you can't manage yourself and your own emotions, and you don't pay enough attention to your own inner state. This is why I talk about inner state so much. Because being spontaneous means being able to take the risk. A lot of risks. Are there any exercises that can help you learn to be spontaneous? Absolutely. Let's break them down. There are two types of exercises that I do, and I've been doing them for the last 4 or 5 years. They have helped me to actually speak in front of the camera and to feel more comfortable in front of the camera. Right now, I don't see myself, but I do a lot of Zoom meetings where I see myself. And I remember when it all started, I felt immense pressure and I had those anxiety attacks because you basically you're seeing yourself in the mirror all the time. And if you don't like what you're seeing, everything you can think of is how to fix that thing that you're seeing, how to fix your own reflection. You're focused on that instead of being focused on the person and on the conversation and on the relationship. Maybe you've experienced something similar. So the two types of exercises that I've been doing, and I recommend everybody does, everybody who needs native-like fluency and everybody who needs this type of mastery, is a self-regulation practices. I'm not only talking about emotional self-regulation, because what is a human being? A person who wants to speak English beautifully, correctly, confidently, and spontaneously is a human being, which means they have a body, they have thoughts, they have emotions, and they have energy. Self-regulation practices must cover all these aspects. You can self-regulate your health, you can self-regulate your thoughts, you can self-regulate your energy, which is your emotions. When we talk about emotional self-regulation, we talk about energy self-regulation. Unfortunately, a lot of people think about emotional self-regulation only at a mental level, where they think you can apply a lot of intellectual effort to suppress your emotions or to control your emotions. But self-regulation practices have nothing to do with control. Of course, you can deny your emotions. And I know that a lot of top performers, especially athletes, practice this approach. They deny their emotions. They pretend their emotions don't exist, especially in situations where they need to perform, where they need to attack, where they need to show their best. Let's say the Olympics. But there's a different approach. Instead of denying your emotions, you can use your emotions. If you understand how you function, if you know yourself, in such situations, it's best to use your emotions so that you remain true to yourself and you can manage yourself. Because when you deny what's you, you're basically telling this emotion or this part of yourself, go away, I don't like you, I just don't want to deal with you anymore, just leave. You just want to cancel this emotion. And you can't cancel a part of yourself so easily. Your emotion is your messenger. If all you want to do is you want to kill the messenger, it's not really the best strategy to learn to be spontaneous. What people want when they say, I want to be spontaneous, is they want to be true to themselves. They don't want to be playing this game of pretense. I want to be spontaneous and I want to be me. I don't want to be someone else. And if I deny some of my emotions or all of them, I'm not me anymore. I'm trying to operate from the perspective of being only half myself, And it's actually possible to prepare yourself for those situations, to self-regulate yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically as well, so that you use your emotions, your body, and your thoughts, and you steer them in the direction that you need. So this is one type of exercises, and I do not teach them. I've been practicing them myself, and everybody who wants to practice with me, I'm inviting them to join the workshops that I attend, because I have a teacher, I have a coach, he has 30 years of experience. If you need these exercises, please join my training. Join the workshops that I attend, and we're going to be practicing together, because I believe you need to learn from the source. This is what I've been repeating over and over again. To me, he is the source, because he's the author of those exercises, because he is the author of these exercises, and I've seen how they work. I don't need any more proof. They just work. And what happens is that you do those practices and you immediately get into the right inner state. Of course, if you're a beginner, it's not going to happen just like that. First, it's going to take some time, but the more you practice, the faster you can condense these routines that he suggests. And then all you need to do is you need to think that thought, and you're immediately in the right state, ready to perform, ready to speak, ready to listen, ready to ask questions, ready to be compassionate, ready to be understanding. And the second thing that can help you manage your inner state is a practice routine. Instead of randomly doing something here and there, create a practice routine for yourself. That's my method. I create deliberate, well-structured, sustainable, creative practice routines so that when you follow these practice routines, later you can create them, but first you follow them. What happens is you get flashes of insights and you understand a lot yourself. But most importantly, when you follow these practice routines over and over again, you delegate most of the work to your unconscious. And when you've done this practice routine enough, you notice that you know many things and you have no idea how you know them. A lot of information becomes available to you. It becomes accessible to your unconscious. And you don't really know how that happened. You might be sitting in a meeting and it's your turn to speak, and you start speaking and you hear yourself say the right words. You don't even remember learning these words. Yes, you remember hearing them, or you remember reading them in class, or you remember looking at them as you did your homework, but you don't really remember learning them or memorizing them. And yet you can hear yourself speak. And this happens to me a lot. I simply listen to myself speak, and it feels like everything is happening in slow motion, and I can hear myself say the right thing with the right intonations. And it feels awesome, pretty awesome, I should say, because it does feel easy and effortless. I don't know how I know it, but I'm very confident that I know it. This effect happens when you have delegated most of the work to your unconscious, meaning you don't have to consciously concentrate on a lot of things, because our mind can concentrate only on a very small portion of information consciously. But our unconscious is extremely powerful. It can handle a lot more. And what you do by engaging in practice routines is you delegate this work to your unconscious so that you can see more by focusing on less. A practice routine has a structure. If you watch a movie and you don't even remember what it was about, or you remember something, this is not a practice routine. If you watched a useful video on how to play the guitar or how to manage your anxiety, and you thought to yourself, oh, that's a cool video, such good advice. But you close YouTube and you go back to live your life and you go back to your old patterns and you forget about that video. You never apply what you learned in that video. This is not a practice routine. If you never get feedback, and even if you tried to apply something from that video and no one ever gave you feedback and you never tried to give feedback to yourself, this is not a practice routine either. If you did it only one time, this is not a practice routine either. A practice routine is what you do over and over again, but it's not the things that you repeat. I have an entire video on YouTube about the difference between repetition and iteration, because what we want to achieve is new iterations. Every time your variable changes, once you have received feedback, you have new variables. Every time you work with a new variable, your outcome will be different. And every time you do the same exercise, it's practically the same, but it doesn't feel the same. You get a different result. And this is what's the most interesting about this work. Every time you arrive at a new understanding, every time you uncover more layers so that you can go deeper. And you don't need to do any work to memorize anything. You learn these words without actually memorizing them. You acquire them unconsciously. And you can acquire a lot more words than you think you can. A lot more than if you sat down, wrote a list of 50 words, and tried to learn them by heart. You can do this, but you're going to forget these words very quickly. This strategy is effective, short term. You forget all these words very fast. You probably know from experience. But the things that you don't know how you know, but you just know them, these things never go away. They're going to stay with you forever, for a long, long time. And they're going to motivate you to do more. If you don't know what a practice routine is or how to go about it, if you're still confused, I have a video on YouTube which is called Can a Practice Routine Be Creative? Watch this video. And I'm inviting you to learn by doing. We can talk about it all day, but you're not going to understand it unless you've tried. Join the community of practice today. Start a free trial and try the exercises I'm talking about. Start a practice routine. A practice routine can be very easy at first. It can be just one exercise that you do for a week. The best place to begin in the community of practice is the space weekly focused practice. You will see practice routines, different practice routines, articles, strong verbs, the rhythm of English, flow. We focus only on one skill and we do only one exercise for 2 weeks. One and the same exercise with different types of content. And every time you do the same exercise with different content, you learn more. You dive deeper. You can see more too. You don't really need to create anything. You don't really need to think much. You don't really need to choose content. All you need to do is join the community of practice, go to this space, weekly focused practice, select your practice routine, and do the exercises that you see. One exercise per day. It's enough. And by the end of 2 weeks, share what you've learned. But don't wait for 2 weeks. Leave a comment after every exercise, because an important, integral part of every exercise is feedback. If you do the exercises without the feedback, without requesting feedback, without receiving feedback, without working with the feedback, you can't create any more iterations. And then it's not really a practice routine anymore. Be careful. Sometimes you can be in the right place. You can have all the tools available, but instead of doing the work, you fall back into your old patterns and you keep consuming. You keep consuming content instead of getting to work with content. Content doesn't matter. You can replace all the content in the community with your content, the content that you like. What most people don't understand is that the strategies matter more than the content. What are your strategies to work with this content? What are you going to do with it? Look, so many people watch Netflix, and they think that watching Netflix counts as practicing English. It doesn't. A lot of people like to brag that they can watch Netflix shows without the subtitles. I'm not really sure that this is an achievement, to be honest. How do you know that you have understood everything? Yes, you can understand the main idea if you watch something without the subtitles, but we know that the human brain cannot focus for a long time. And every episode is 1 hour long? I don't really watch Netflix. 1 hour long. But if we take a movie, movies are long today. They're 2-3 hours long. And a human brain cannot focus for 3 hours. This is why if you have watched the Avatar, let's say, without the subtitles, yes, it was entertainment, but it wasn't learning. It wasn't active practice. To understand what active and deliberate practice means, I encourage you to check out the Community of Practice and to try the creative exercises that you will find there. All of these exercises focus on building relationships and learning to be spontaneous. Share the thoughts that you have. What are your thoughts on building relationships? What are your thoughts on practicing relationships in English and being spontaneous? Share them in the comments. Is it what you want to? And what have you been doing to help yourself achieve that? I'll see you in the next videos.